details coming up at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12.
In South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an OpenView channel 6 to 8, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update asks, Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane is facing 5 charges, including incitement to terrorism and disobedience. The charges relate to post-election violence, which left hundreds of people dead. Mondlane has denied committing any of the charges he is facing. Now, our question today is, do you think Mondlane should be held accountable, or is this a way to silence the noise? Let us know your views and your thoughts on our social media platforms on X and Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your voice notes on +2763 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update us.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Our SABC Sports brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC 2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. I'll stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC 2. Be there when history shines.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Binal Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 10 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Southern African Development Community is holding the 27th Ordinary Meeting of the Ministerial Committee of the Organ on Politics, Defence and Security Cooperation in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, to discuss issues aimed at promoting peace and security in the region. Daniel Kijo has more.
Speaking at the SADC Ministerial Committee meeting in Tanzania's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and East Africa Cooperation, Ambassador Samuel Shelukindo, said the region must not be complacent despite overall stability. He called for stronger collaboration among member states to tackle the conflict in eastern DRC, which continues to displace civilians and destabilize regional peace efforts. Shelukindo also warned of a surge in transnational crimes, including arms smuggling, human trafficking, and cybercrime, urging coordinated intelligence sharing and reinforcement strategy. The Eastern DRC has seen renewed clashes between armed groups, prompting SADC to deploy a regional force earlier this year to support Congolese forces. Tanzania, a key contributor to regional peacekeeping missions, emphasized the need for sustainable funding, and long-term political solutions to restore lasting peace. SADC member states are expected to review the progress of the current regional deployment and discuss next steps in the upcoming Heads of State Summit. Daniel Kijo, Dar es Salaam.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. Other charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. And to discuss this, we are joined on the line by the director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga. Adriano, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon.
Now, what are the charges that have been laid against Mondlane? And if found guilty, what punishment is he looking at? We have been reporting that he is facing, incitement to terrorism charge and disobedience. Just break them down for us.
Yes, Mondlane has been charged with 5 charges. One is the organizing for collective disobedience. The other one is on organizing people to commit crimes. But the most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve a 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle. This is clearly looked at as a weaponization of the law to prevent him from standing in the next electoral cycle.
And what sort of reaction are you seeing on the ground with regards to these charges that Mondlane is facing?
Well, before that, perhaps give a bit of context. Mondlane, soon after so to say, the end of the protests, which ended through a dialogue with the president, and he argues that there was agreed that there would be easing of tensions, and all political prisoners, and including himself, he would not be facing trial. So there would not be the prosecution would not be going against him and his allies. This number one. Number two, few months later, he applied for the legalization of his political party, Anamalala. The Ministry of Justice has systematically been failing to approve as per the law. So it seems that charging him now is also to fail the legalization of his political party, because if you are being charged, you are going through a trial. You cannot legalize a political party. So the aim is not only to prevent him from standing from the next election, but also here it is a weaponization of the law to frustrate the legalization of his political party.
Now, Adriano, the reaction from Mondlane, he's denied all these, committing any of these charges that he is facing, or these crimes rather. And, he said that he's going to acquire the best international lawyers and local lawyers. And, Could we see another uprising from Venancio Mondlane supporters?
Unlikely. After this historic wave of protests and basically leading to nothing in terms of either power sharing or people seeing that their effort has paid something in terms of shaping the future government, etc. People have moved on. Have moved on also because people have been targeted. They have been killed by the police, and death squads are still out there attacking Acharadis, attacking those who are pro-democracy, and attacking Venancio Mondlane's supporters. So it is very unlikely to see another wave of protests in reaction to that.
Now, what sort of time frames are we looking at all of this unfolding? He's denied the charges against him. He's denied committing any of these. And as you say, there has been continued, frustration on his supporters and so on. But to ensure peace in Mozambique, what should all political leaders do in the country? And for a stability to continue in the country, especially now, with you say it's unlikely, but there is a slight possibility that it may happen.
Absolutely. Now, your question as to what is needed to be done, I think we are not yet ready for that sort of question. Mozambique's 3.5 decades of democratic experiment has been underpinned by violence because electoral governance is very fraudulent, and the state machinery is there to protect the Frelimo rule and not to allow people to freely participate and the rule of law to prevail. We are not yet there. So that would be a question for another time. But what I see happening here is towards if now that Mondlane has been charged, he is given by law 15 days to reply. He will reply. And then the process is submitted to the Court of Justice. And there we are looking in terms of timelines. Towards the end of the year, we expect to see the beginning of the trial process, which is going to be a very long, frustrating process, because once you are in such a process, it means they limit your movements, they limit what you can do. And the objective here is also to kind of bring Mondlane down by frustrating him, by occupying him with defending himself in the Court of Justice. And towards the end of this cycle of governance, let's say 2027, 28, we will see a verdict. And the verdict, again, is going to be highly politicized, again, to frustrate him from standing from the next election. So this is not moving in the direction of peace and reconciliation. Is moving in the direction of polarization and seen also as a provocation by the judiciary to Mondlane's supporters, which they, in reality, they do exist. They're out there, and we have been seeing what they're capable of doing. But it seems that the level of weaponization of the judiciary is such that they are ready to go that direction instead of reconciling, promoting a constructive dialogue that will bring stability and peace and prosperity to the country.
Now, very quickly, Adriano, in wrapping up, clearly he's got huge support in terms of financially as well, because if you speak of international lawyers, apart from the local lawyers being expensive, international lawyers will clearly be extremely expensive. He has a lot of support and backers who are, behind him. Tell us about that very briefly.
I see commoners, ordinary citizens supporting him with one medical, two medical, three. So he has that sort of support. People are contributing to this. But of course, there is support as we see he travels internationally and he's welcomed in many capitals in the West. It seems that he has such capacity to mobilize those lawyers. And I think they will be available also pro bono, some of them, to come and support him from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Adriano, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That's the Director of the Center for Democracy and Development, the CDD, Adriano Novunga, joining us on the line.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Tulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Tulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 23 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. An investigation by the Times of Eswatini, a South African businessman, Vusumuzi Kat Matlala, holds an Eswatini national ID. Now, the ID was seemingly issued under mysterious circumstances. A man with attributes identical to that of Matlala is listed on the Ministry of Home Affairs Civil Registry as Vusumuzi Dlamini, a resident of Mojane. For more on this, we are joined on the line by Zweli Martin Dlamini, the editor of the Swaziland News. Zweli, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Thank you for having me on Channel Africa.
Great. It's always a pleasure having you on, Vusumuzi. Now, tell us about, I beg your pardon, Zweli, tell us about Vusumuzi Dlamini and Vusumuzi Kat Matlala.
Thank you. Yes, the story was published by the Times of Eswatini. We are correct. This week, Vusumuzi Kat Matlala has been exposed by the Times Investigation Unit of having in possession of Swazi passport, and I will say Swazi ID, that is an identity document. So the Times of Eswatini, can you hear me, Lulu? I'm still
Yes,
audible?
Please go ahead. Go ahead,
Yes.
Zweli.
Thank you. The Times of Eswatini managed to get some documents within the Ministry of Home Affairs suggesting that Matlala, the one who is known in South Africa, having linked to various criminal activities as exposed by one Mr. Nhlanhla Mukhwanazi of the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police, the Provincial Police Commissioner, is also appearing in the Eswatini Home Affairs system as Vusumuzi Dlamini of Moshane.
Now, Zweli, can I ask you, your camera, please flip it back because now we're kind of seeing you sideways on camera. So kind of move it around so that we can see you properly. Just rotate it to your right, maybe.
Okay.
Yes, much better. Okay, great. No. Go back a little bit more, just halfway through. Halfway, just
now?
rotate it to the left, just halfway.
To the left.
Yeah, just rotate it to the left so that you, because now we're seeing you on screen. You kind of look upside down.
So now I'm okay now.
No, try again. Keep moving it until we get it right. Okay, turn it again the other way. Almost there, turn it again.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Don't move. Perfect. Right there. Please go ahead. Yes. So now with Vusumuzi Kat Matlala and Vusumuzi Dlamini, are they the same person?
Yes, according to the Times investigation report, Vusumuzi Dlamini is the same person as Vusumuzi Ket Mahlala. Apparently, the Times uncovered that Vusumuzi Ket Mahlala is holding a Swazi identity document, which I believe, according to their investigations, is using to engage in criminal activities. You know, these people who are alleged to be involved in criminal syndicates, they normally have various identity documents from various countries. So that is how what has been uncovered about Vusumuzi Dlamini, who is known in your country, South Africa, as Vusumuzi Kate Mahlala.
So now, when did the authorities become aware of this? And as it seems that the ID was it issued recently, or is it something that he's had for some time? Or was he born in Eswatini? What else did the Times of Eswatini uncover around Vusumuzi Dlamini, Vusumuzi Kat Mahlala?
Okay, the information that I have suggests that because what I did upon reading the Times investigation report, I discovered that I will say the Home Affairs security systems are currently vulnerable to be manipulated by such criminal syndicates. So Vusumuzi Dlamini, who is known as Vusumuzi Ket Mahlala in South Africa, managed to obtain this ID without following the necessary procedures. You know, in Eswatini, there's a process that you must undergo before you can have a national ID. And one of those processes, you must be confirmed Liswati. That means there must be someone within your chiefdom. We call it, in South Africa, you call it Inkosi. In Eswatini, these are chiefs. It's an extension of the traditional authority in Eswatini. So it has been discovered that all those necessary processes were not followed when Vusumuzi Ket Mahlala, who appeared in Eswatini as Vusumuzi Dlamini, obtained this ID. So I can safely say that the ID that is in possession of the so-called Mahlala, who's known as Dlamini in Eswatini, is indeed an alleged fraudulent ID.
So basically, does it mean that Mahlala is actually South African and just got an illegal document from Eswatini just to have, as you say, with the criminal world, they seemingly or allegedly have a number of passports or ID or documentation?
Of course, what you need to understand, what these alleged criminals normally do, what they normally do with these various identity documents. Whenever they have been placed or red flagged, you know, the term red flagged is normally used by Interpol. When you are a wanted person, they normally activate your name in the computer systems, immigration systems of your country, and of course other neighboring countries, so that when you try to skip the country, maybe through the airport or any border gate, those officials at the border gate will be able to see that you are a wanted person. So if you have these various ID and passports, you are then able to skip the country using the alternative document so that you cannot be identified in the system. So this is a normal thing in the criminal syndicate world, whereby an alleged criminal will have various identity documents from various countries.
Now, Zweli, just in regards to authorities in Eswatini, Home Affairs, what action have they taken in dealing with this now identity document that is alleged to be fraudulent?
As I'm speaking to you now, there is an investigation which I strongly believe is in collaboration with the law enforcement authorities of the Republic of South Africa. Because what you need to understand that the law enforcement in South Africa normally collaborates in such criminal, when investigating such criminal activities. So in Eswatini, the Ministry of Home Affairs have launched an internal investigation to ascertain how Vusumuzi Ket Mahlala, who appears as Vusumuzi Dlamini, in Eswatini, obtained this ID.
Yeah.
And I've gathered that the investigation is in collaboration, of course, with the law enforcement agents in South Africa.
Zweli, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to have to leave it there for today. That's Zweli Martin Dlamini, editor of the Swaziland News, joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Political analyst Anchang Paul says more than 80 candidates submitting applications to contest Cameroon's presidential elections show the vitality of the democracy in that country. Mozambique's highest electoral authority, the Constitutional Council, has refused to order a recount of last October's disputed general elections and rather formally charged opposition leader Venancio Mondlane with incitement to terrorism, escalating political tension in the country. And the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza has reached new levels of desperation as over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli gunfire while trying to access food. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. Banyana head coach Dr. Desiree Ellis has paid a heartfelt tribute to her players after their spirited run at the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament came to an end following a 2-1 semi-final defeat to Nigeria last night. So despite relinquishing their crown as continental champions, Ellis praised the bravery as well as the resilience of her side, who came into that clash battle-weary yet undeterred, should I say, after a grilling 120-minute epic as well as penalty shootout against Senegal in the quarterfinals. So on Tuesday night, under the floodlights of Casablanca's Labri Zaoule Stadium, South Africa went toe-to-toe with record-holding Super Falcons but just fell short. Goals from Nigerian captain Rashidat Ajebade as well as Meshal Alozi sealed the win for the West Africans, while Linda Motlalo kept South Africa in the fight with a well-taken penalty. The defeat brought an end to Banyana's impressive 15-match unbeaten run in open play at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament, every match under the watchful eye and the guiding hand of Dr. Ellis. Nigeria will face the host side Morocco in Rabat on Saturday, while the coach, or rather should I say, while South Africa will stay behind in Casablanca for the bronze medal match showdown against the Black Queens of Ghana, who were edged out by Morocco on penalties 4-2 last night. In athletics news now, the current world under-20 champion Bayanda Walaza won over the crowd in Germany with his power, speed and sportsmanship and showmanship as he blitzed through the 100-meter final to claim gold at the FISU World University Games. It's a promise he made after arriving just last weekend on the back of a busy but rewarding running season. He also added to the growing tally of medals for Team South Africa at the event, with his gold taking the number to 10 and with the relay still to come. So Walaza, following this victory, says he is happy with how he performed in that race and also happy with the fact that he's the fastest amongst his peers at university level.
Truly, I would say it feels wonderful, to actually have one of these championships in my hand, because I can also say that I'm the fastest in all the universities in the world. So I'll say it's a great honor to be here, and it's a great honor to actually win this. It's actually going to bring my name up, and it's actually going to motivate me to even do more.
On to tennis news now. The world number one Yannick Sinner has reappointed fitness coach Uberto Ferreira, whom he parted ways following the investigation into his positive test for a banned substance. Now, Ferreira, as well as physiotherapist Giacomo Naldi, left the Italian's team in August of 2024, 5 months after he returned 2 positive tests for cluster ball. Now, according to a statement from Sinner's team, Umberto has played an important role in Yannick Sinner's development to date, and his return reflects a renewed renewed focus on continuity as well as performance at the highest level. The decision has also been made in alignment with Yannick Sinner's management team as part of the ongoing preparations for the upcoming tournaments, including the Cincinnati Open as well as the US Open. Wimbledon champion Sinner was initially cleared by an independent tribunal of any wrongdoing just last August, but the World Anti-Doping Agency appealed against the panel's ruling that he bore no fault or negligence. The 23-year-old ultimately accepted a 3-month ban in February of this year after reaching a settlement with WADA. Ferrara says he provided the spray to Naldi for personal use and warned him not to use it on Sinner. After the departures of Ferrara as well as Naldi, Sinner appointed fitness coach Marco Panacci as well as physiotherapist Ulisse Badio in September of 2024. However, he parted ways with the pair shortly before this year's Wimbledon competition. Well, Netball South Africa have announced an under-21 national squad, the baby Proteas, for the upcoming 2025 Netball World Youth Cup, which will take place in Gibraltar from the 19th to the 28th of September. The announcement was made by Acting President Mami Diale, highlighting the team's preparations as well as the previous success leading up to the prestigious event.
When it comes to under-21, national under-21 in Netball South Africa, it's quite been a journey for them. We have given them time to progress, time to grow. Talent was identified at all sectors of netball, like your TNC, where we identified the first talent. And that, we started it way back in 2022. We have given them the chance. Some of them participated at Region 5. Because for a simple reasons, we wanted to see how they blend, how they play, with one another.
Now, the baby Proteas, led by coach Precious Mthembu, have shown a strong performance in recent competitions, including a flawless record at the Africa World Youth Qualifiers, as well as a dominant international season against Jamaica's under-21 team. Just a few months ago, the squad was also narrowed down from a larger pool of players through evaluations in various tournaments, including the Telkom Netball League.
We are very proud to announce the selection of a strong and competitive team that represents South Africa and the African continent at the 2025 Netball World Youth Cup. The selection reflects the deep respect we have for our nation and obviously the opponents we'll be facing. The campaign ahead will be challenging, of course, and as every team is determined to make their country proud, we are just fortunate to have had the opportunity to observe our players closely across various competitions we've had, and we've intentionally placed them in different events to build the cohesion and the bond and unity in the team.
All right, so that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. For Mandela, life was about making a difference, not just living. This Mandela Day, Channel Africa honors that legacy.
It is for humanity, or for society, to decide how I should be remembered. I am not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying.
On Channel Africa.
The African perspective.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon, and our top business story at this hour. South African household budgets remain under pressure amid rising costs on goods as inflation edges up from 2.8% in May to 3% in June. The latest data released by Statistics South Africa shows that consumer inflation rose on the back of higher food prices, which have reached a 15-month high. Stats SA notes that meat, particularly beef, continues to be the main driver of food inflation. South Africa's trade union Solidarity says it's willing to negotiate downwards in its wage dispute with Fly Safe. The two parties will resume their Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration-led wage negotiations in the Gauteng province this afternoon. The union says priority will be given to resolving non-finance disagreements. It says a pilot's roster in relation to the working hours remains the most contentious issue for its members. This as more than 200 pilots at the airline embark on a strike. Fly Safe, which is currently operating at a limited capacity, is offering a 5.7% wage increase, while the union is demanding a 10.5% increase. Solidarity's Helgard Cronje.
I believe the way to resolve this dispute is by starting with the roster dispute. That's a non-cost item. We saw Safir's comments in the media about how much our demand would cost. So our view is, let's start with a non-cost item. It is the roster dispute. It is the most contentious issue, it seems, especially under our members. So if we can resolve the roster dispute, it would lower the emotions and it would make the discussions that are surrounding the rest of the issues a little bit easier.
South Africa's Competition Tribunal has approved Canal Plus SA's mandatory takeover offer for MultiChoice Group, clearing a significant regulatory hurdle for the $1.42 per share cash transaction. The approval comes with conditions including implementation of a previously disclosed structure that maintains compliance with South African broadcasting ownership laws. The deal received a positive recommendation from South Africa's Competition Commission in May. Tracy Bumgard reports.
The agreed conditions include commitments to support firms controlled by historically disadvantaged persons and small, micro and medium enterprises in South Africa's audiovisual industry. The companies have also pledged to maintain funding for local South African entertainment and sports content. As part of the transaction structure announced in February, MultiChoice Pty Limited, which holds broadcasting licenses and contracts with South African subscribers, will be carved out to become an independent entity, majority owned and controlled by historically disadvantaged persons.
East Africa's largest telecoms firm, MTN Uganda, plans to split off its fintech unit into a separate entity and aims to list it on the local bourse in 3 to 5 years. The company, which has a mobile subscriber base of about 21 million, is a unit of South Africa's MTN Group and competes mainly with the local unit of India's Bharti Airtel. Tuto Ngubeni reports.
MTN Uganda has received shareholder nod at an extraordinary general meeting held last week for the separation of its mobile money and fintech business. Mobile money is a cell phone-enabled service that allows subscribers to transfer money and make payments for products and services like utility bills, energy purchases, food orders, and ride hails. The platform has grown rapidly in Africa, where it is now widely used. Under the reorganization, MTN Uganda's mobile money fintech business will be transformed into a separate entity majority owned by MTN Group Fintech Holdings BV, the fintech arm of MTN Group.
Further afield, the Malaysian government has announced a once-off cash giveaway for all adults in an effort to ease growing concern about the rising cost of living. The Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, said a payment of about $24 would be given to every person over the age of 18 from the end of August. He added that the price of fuel would be cut. The announcement came ahead of a planned protest to be held in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur, on Saturday, calling for Anwar to step down over escalating prices and a failure to deliver on promised reforms. Anwar's administration has carried out a number of measures to boost revenue and productivity this year, including a minimum wage hike, increased electricity tariffs on heavy power users, such as big business and the wealthy. However, critics have voiced fears that higher costs would eventually be passed down to consumers, including lower and middle income earners. And now taking a look at the financial indicators at this hour, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,529 naira. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 43. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 34, and in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha and 3. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 56. Russia, 78 rubles 31. India, 86 rupees 32. China at 7 yuan 17, and South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 59 cents at this hour. It's much stronger than this morning. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,428 per ounce and platinum at $1,467 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $68.08 a barrel. And those are your business news. For any business news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Headbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:47 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our civil rights organisation Amnesty International has urged South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa to redirect the about $40 million allocated for the national dialogue. Ramaphosa formally announced the National Dialogue last month. The platform intends to reflect on the nation's current state, envisioning its future and establishing the foundation for the upcoming National Development Plan. The process is scheduled for next month on the 15th and is set to unfold in phases, including local consultations and sectoral engagements to provincial and national gatherings over a year. And for more on this, Amnesty International's campaigner Cassandra Dorasami joins us on the line. Cassandra, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Now, is a national dialogue necessary for South Africa, especially as the country faces a myriad of challenges?
Well, Amnesty International is not against having a dialogue per se, because dialogue is important for nation building, for social cohesion. And we know this national dialogue, like you said earlier, it's meant to lay a foundation for the next national development plan. So there are some inherent goods in having a dialogue. What we're concerned about is the cost of it, and whether that 700 million rand or $14 million, as you said, could be better spent on other more pressing issues in our country. And if it is going to come out of our country's national budget, which is already constrained, how do we justify that spending when we know that there are, for example, personnel freezes in key critical areas like the health sector, like the education sector, when we know that schools in South Africa still have pit toilets in some areas. There's massive deficits in departmental budgets that affect people living in South Africa directly. That should take priority before there is this big expenditure on a dialogue.
Now, let's talk about the areas of concern. You've highlighted a few, where education, you've spoken about challenges in the health sector, where a freezing of jobs because there's said to be no budget for these placements, and a lot of people are unemployed. So what should the president do with this 40 million and with the proper way forward in terms of dealing with the crisis the country is facing from all directions?
Well, there are a number of recommendations that have been made by civil society, by communities, by experts and analysts of what can be done immediately. Amnesty has made a couple recommendations as well, for example, around gender-based violence and the need to increase training for police officers and other professionals in the criminal justice system. We've also raised the situation of human rights defenders and the need for protection for human rights defenders and whistleblowers in South Africa, where we know that they're still come under threat, and that prevents people from speaking out against corruption and malfeasance in their areas of work. In South Africa, there's also 3 million people who still do not have access to basic water supply, and 5.3 million households that do not have access to safe and reliable drinking water. This is a basic issue, a basic survival issue. We all need clean and safe water to survive. And another area is around climate change. And South Africa, over the past couple of years, has experienced extreme weather events like flooding that has led to loss of life. And we need investment in that area where housing needs to be adapted to accommodate for the changes in weather patterns that we are facing, and needs to be situated in areas that are safe enough for people to live in the face of ongoing flooding and drought and other extreme weather events. And amnesty is not the only one. If you speak to people living in South Africa, people in their own communities, they have solutions. If you ask them what needs to be done, they will tell you. And that's where our existing structures could come into play. But there is immediate steps that need to be taken and need to be invested in. We can't wait for a whole national dialogue to tell us things that we, in some ways, already know about the country. Action, I think, needs to be taken more immediately.
And have you reached out to the government and in raising your concerns? And has there been any response, if you have?
Yes, we have raised our concerns. The response is nothing to say right now. Of course, the presidency has come out and said that the cost of the dialogue is still an estimate. It hasn't been budgeted yet. However, we will see how this unfolds and whether in the next coming budget cycle it is in fact going to cost 700 million. But in raising it, especially with the media and with other people living in South Africa, it's something to keep an eye on. And this is also our way of making sure that this is on the nation's agenda. Keep watching how our budget is spent and whether it is prioritized for human rights issues.
Well, Cassandra, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's Cassandra Dorasamy, a campaigner at Amnesty International, joining us on the line. It is 12:53 Central African Time.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Over 80 presidential hopefuls have submitted their candidacies to Cameroon's electoral body, Elecam, ahead of the October 12th election. Our 92-year-old President Paul Biya is seeking another term after more than 40 years in power. Our civil society groups are urging the opposition to unite behind one candidate. From Yaoundé, Muki Kinzaga reports growing calls to amend the electoral code, which allows almost anyone to run for president.
Cameroon's elections management body Elecam says a record 82 candidates, up from less than 30 who deposited candidacy files in the 2018 presidential elections, include 8 women. The most popular among them, Patricia Ndamjoya of the CDU party. Ndamjoya says she thinks she is fit to beat Biya, whom she says has ruined Cameroon since he took over power from former President Amadou Ahidjo in 1982.
For the Democratic Union, the best government is the one that creates and maintains the best conditions for social political change and democratic change. The development of each person's personalities, the responsible participation of all the management of the countries, and the creation of the wealth. This is the government that the Cameroon Democratic Union will put in place.
But a majority of the 81 aspirants are unknown in Cameroon's political history. They have never contested in any local elections. One of the aspirants, Kisop Bertin, is serving an ongoing prison sentence. Many Cameroonians, like Muel Hilary, a member of Cameroon Civil Society Group, said a huge number of candidates indicates the electoral code, which makes it possible for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to submit candidacy papers, should be revised to give the race the honor it ought to deserve.
And that report by Muki Kinzaga from Yaoundé in Cameroon. And we say happy hump day to Dabukule Kuleni of the Upside. Hello, and how are you today?
Happy hump day to you too. I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
It's a lovely Wednesday. It means that we can smell the weekend. It's right around the corner, just a day or two. And here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. First up, we get into conversation about the impact that the beer industry has on the economy, having contributed and poured in about 96 billion rand into the economy last year, supporting thousands of jobs. We asked the question, as the tech space shifts and innovations are brought in onto the table and job losses are creeping in, illicit alcohol trade, what impact do those factors then have on the beer industry in its contribution to the economy? And then we get into another conversation about racing. I don't know when last you went to a Kyalami Grand Prix and watched a race.
Yeah, no, it's been a while.
Your kind of thing, though?
Once in a while,
be honest.
not. Yeah,
okay.
no.
Yeah. Okay, not for you.
Yeah.
We'll be heading over to the 4 hours of Kyalami, which will be taking place this Saturday at the Kyalami Grand Prix as part of the Southern African Endurance Series. And it's going to be quite an anticipated race that we are going to be a part of. I can't personally, I can't be there. I would have loved to be there. Because weekends are for game drives.
Okay.
Not for speeding.
Yeah, game drives.
Yes. Okay, personal. That's just me anyway. And then we get into conversation about a Channel Africa collaboration because Brand South Africa has renewed its strategic alliance with the Tourism Investment Forum Africa, TIFA. Okay. And there will be a summit or forum that will be taking place in August that we will be a part of as Channel Africa. So we'll be unpacking what that is all about. That's all coming up on the Upside this afternoon.
It's coming up at the top of the hour with Debohole Kuleni and Matsuko Musito. And for myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, that's producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Katu Madava, and social media Sviso Hlope and talent Butelezi. It's been a good one. Continue with us on our and let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.